What's up, guys? It's Andrew Santowski. It's UFC Fight Night Hall vs. Silva, also known as UFC on ESPN Plus 39, Hall vs. Silva, which will take place October 31st, 2020, Halloween. So I'm doing my prediction and bet video for this card, man. Great poster. Definitely like this poster. Anderson Silva's retirement fight. So we're going to go over the first fight of the night. We got Miles John against Kevin Natvidad. Bantamweight fight. I like Miles John in this fight, man. He's a wrestler. He won his UFC debut against Cole Smith, who was also a big bantamweight. Good wrestler as well. He lost to Marno Batista at UFC 247 in February. I was on Batista in that fight. But here he's going up against Kevin Natvidad, who trains out of Arizona Combat Sports. You really don't hear about anybody training out of there anymore, but he's making his UFC debut here. And I just think Miles Johns will be too much, man. I think Miles Johns will pick up a decision win, uses wrestling. Next up, we have a women's flyweight fight. Courtney Casey against Priscilla Cachoeira. I'm actually going with Cachoeira here. She's a plus 180 dog, or no, plus 201 dog. I'm bookmaker. Courtney Casey. I do like her as a fighter. But she's up and down, man. You know, she's up and down. She gets taken down too easily. She has great armbar submissions, great jiu-jitsu, but she can be controlled on the ground. And her stand-up is a work in progress. And Cachoeira, man, she was on a 3-fight skid. And came back with a nice knockout of Shayna Dobson, who just upset Agapova in August. But I'm gonna go with Priscilla Cachoeira, man. I'm gonna say she gets a decision win, and just outboxes Courtney Casey, man. Does enough standing to win. Next up, we got Dustin Jacoby against Justin Ledet, light heavyweight fight. Guys, I am going with Dustin Jacoby here to beat Justin Ledet. Justin Ledet, thought he looked great in his heavyweight debut back in 2016, but he's since fallen off the map, man. Alexander Rakic beat him too on his rise. But I like Dustin Jacoby. He's a light heavyweight now. He used to fight as a middleweight in the UFC years ago. He picked up a nice win off Contender Series a couple months ago. But, yeah, he's a minus 300. Definitely not a bet, but I am going with Dustin Jacoby by first-round knockout. Jason Witt against Cole Williams. Two guys that lost their UFC debut. Cole Williams hasn't fought in over a year. Jason Witt just got knocked out by Takashi Sato. In his UFC debut, I think in August. But I'm going to go with Witt by decision. He's the more active fighter. Trains out of James Krause's gym in Missouri. So I'm going to go with Jason Witt by decision. And then welterweight fight. But no confidence in this pick, guys. Jason Witt is currently at minus 145. But it was a pick 'em for a while. Sean Strickland returning from a long layoff against Jack Marshman. Jack Marshman, I think, is a can at middleweight. Sean Strickland is moving up from welterweight to middleweight. And I'm going to go with Sean Strickland despite the layoff, despite the 2-year layoff. I'm going to go with Sean Strickland by decision. I just think he's more than... I think, you know, Sean Strickland after 2 years doesn't have to cut the weight. Going up against Jack Marshman, who's just, I think, a can at middleweight. I used to kind of have high hopes for him. But he has not been impressive. So I'm going to go with Sean Strickland by decision. Next up, kind of a late notice replacement fight. Adrian Yanez against Victor Rodriguez. And I'm going to go with Victor Rodriguez by decision here. Adrian Yanez, he's coming off a nice win on the Contender Series, a knockout of Brady Hoang back in August. Victor Rodriguez is from the Alaskan Fighting Combat But I'm going to go with Victor Rodriguez here, man. Two bantamweights you really don't know a whole lot about. But I'm going to take the underdog in this fight, man. I'm going to go with Victor Rodriguez by decision here. He is currently a 3-1 underdog. Next up, the featured prelim, Alexander Hernandez against Groodsmocker. Both guys have been around for a minute. Alexander Hernandez, man, I even though he lost to Drew Dober in May, I really liked his movement in that fight, man. You know, I don't think he's training out of Texas anymore. I did see him at Mark Montoya out of Factory X, cornering a guy not too long ago. But Alexander Hernandez, man, what can you say about this kid, man? Very high hopes on this kid, man. Never forget his UFC debut in 2018 when he knocked out Beneil Dariush in the first round. Then he picks up a nice win over Olivier Alban Mercier in that summer of 2018. That was awesome. And then, like I said, he lost to Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who gets up for fights that he's counted out, man. And Hernandez was talking a lot of shit in the lead up to that fight, but he bounced back with a win over Trinaldo. But like I said, he lost to Drew Dober by second round TKO in a fight I really liked back in May. But Drew Dober is on a surge, man. He is definitely rejuvenated out of Team Elevation. He has looked great as of late. No shame in losing to Drew Dober. Chris Groodsmocker, he's developed as a fighter as well. Hasn't fought in a couple years. Hasn't fought in 2.5 years, man. Very concerning coming back to Alex Hernandez. His last win over is Joe Lozon. Handled Joe Lozon accordingly. But I'm going to go with Alexander Hernandez. Chris Groodsmocker isn't an easy out for anybody. But I think Hernandez will pass this test. And Hernandez is currently a minus 320 favorite. But no bet. But my pick is Alexander Hernandez to win by decision. Bobby Greene against Thiago Moises. Bobby Greene is on a surge, man. Thiago Moises, yeah, he's coming off a win over Michael Johnson. He pulled out of that fight with Jalen Turner because I think he had COVID. But I'm going with Bobby Greene here, man. Bobby Greene is an all-around great fighter. I think he will get a decision win here, and I think he will extend his win streak to, 3, I want to say? He will extend his win streak to 4 with a win over Thiago Moises. But my pick is Greene by decision. Greg Hardy against Maurice Greene. Greg Hardy has looked great as a heavyweight. I'm going with Greg Hardy here. Maurice Greene is chinny, not a good ground game. Greg Hardy likes to keep fights standing, but I think Greg Hardy will just outpoint Maurice Greene. I don't see him he could possibly get a TKO finish, but I'm going to go with Greg Hardy by decision. Next up on the main card, Makhmed Muradov against late replacement Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, he's the go-to for the UFC for late notice fights. Going up against the green Makhmed Muradov, who's 2-0 in the UFC. But I'm going to go with Muradov by decision, man. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's an all-around great stand-up fighter, doesn't have much of a ground game. But he knows how to stay in fights, man. But he also knows how to lose fights that are close. Doesn't do enough, not active enough. But I'm gonna go with Makhmed Muradov by decision, man. I just think he does enough to edge out Kevin Holland. Co-main event: Bryce Mitchell against Andre Fili. Yes, Andre Fili has more experience, but Bryce Mitchell is a special kid on the ground, man. And I think Fili is too susceptible to takedowns. And I think Bryce Mitchell will take him down and control him. I don't necessarily see Bryce Mitchell getting a submission finish. He could, but I think Bryce Mitchell will control Fili on the ground and pick up a decision win here. Main event, Uriah Hall against Anderson Silva, man. Anderson Silva's retirement fight. Uriah Hall looks like he's been busy in Hollywood making movies, doing stunts, whatever. You don't know what you're going to get out of Uriah Hall. He hasn't fought in a while, in over a year, just like Anderson Silva hasn't. Picked up a nice split decision win over Antonio Carlos Jr. in his last fight. Beat Bevon Lewis in a fight that he had to come back to. Had to come back in the third round. But he's 36 years old too, man. He's no young dog. And he's just never extremely focused as a fighter, man. You really don't know what you're going to get. And as a minus 220 favorite, can never take him, man. Anderson Silva, 45 years old. What can you say? One of the best fighters ever. Probably one of the greatest middleweights ever, man. Yeah, he's coming off another leg injury to Jared Cannonier that happened in May 2019. But I'm going to go with Anderson Silva, man. He looks like he's training hard for this fight, man. I'm taking Anderson Silva with a decision win. I don't have any bets yet, but if I do have a bet for this fight, guys, I will probably place it on fight day on Halloween. So I will let you know. Stay posted on my YouTube channel, and I will update you if I place a bet on this card. Thanks, guys, for joining me. This is UFC on ESPN Plus 39 Hall vs. Silva predictions.